Hello, good morning, and welcome to today's webinar titled Improving the Vaccination Experience, Accessible Vaccination for Neurodiverse People at Any Age. Before we begin, we wanted to mention a couple of navigation reminders. For the best viewing experience, we recommend using a wired internet connection and closing any programs or browser sessions running in the background that could cause issues. All attendee lines have been muted and the camera feature is disabled. The chat feature is turned on, however, we are not monitoring it during the webinar. We'll be dropping resources in the chat box and following up with resources in an email as well. Please submit any questions for the presenters in the Q&A box. We will try to address as many as we can before the end of the program. Additionally, if you have any technical difficulties during the webinar, you can also submit those through the Q&A box. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand. My name is Michelle Call, and I serve as National Senior Director of Infectious Disease and Immunization for the American Lung Association. On behalf of the Connecticut Immunization Coalition and the Lung Association, welcome to our webinar. Before I introduce our agenda and featured presenters, I wanted to start off with a quick poll. I can find them, of course. That poll is, have you attended a training or educational session to vaccinate neurodiverse individuals before? You can just click yes, no, or unsure, and we're going to see kind of where we stand. And the vast majority of poll submissions say no at 96% no, 4% yes. So this is new content for lots of participants for our presenters today. Thanks for your participation in the poll. As you may or may not know, I have a child with autism. He was unofficially diagnosed when he was around 18 months old and received his official diagnosis about 6 months later. He is now 16 years old and thriving. We didn't have these types of opportunities or resources when he was a young kiddo, and vaccines were very challenging. Though I have to say, the nurses at his pediatrician's office and at our local health department, shout out to Manchester Health Department, were absolute gems, even though it was challenging. And then later on, as he grew older, we found a couple strategies that really worked for him, and we have not looked back since. So from both a personal and also a professional lens, I'm really thrilled to be hosting today's webinar. I just wanted to say that like improving the vaccination experience for individuals who are neurodiverse will also likely improve the vaccination experience for everyone attending your clinic. So this is really important information today. And this is what we intend on covering as part of the webinar today, our brief welcome here, an overview about the Autism Society, understanding autism and different communication types and barriers to care, an overview of the vaccine education initiative that the Autism Society of America has. We'll be discussing communication strategies and tools, open for Q&A, and then we will present some Connecticut Immunization Coalition and Lung Association resources. I am honored to introduce our two featured presenters for today's webinar who are from the Autism Society of America. Danielle Hall is the National Program Manager for the Vaccine Education Initiative, and Ali Tashi is the Director of National Programs. And you can read their complete bios on the webinar registration page, but we want to make sure we have plenty of time to cover this important topic. As a reminder, please submit any questions for the presenters in the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Thanks so much, Danielle and Ali, for being here today to talk about this topic, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you for having us today. It's an honor to be able to present our vaccine education initiative to this immunization coalition. So, as Michelle just stated, we're going to be sharing the lessons that we learned through our vaccine education initiative and the incredible impact that we can have within the autism and disability community when we work together. Before we begin discussing accessible vaccinations, it's important to have a good understanding of who we are and why the Autism Society is charting this work. The Autism Society of America is the nation's largest and oldest grassroots autism organization, and we've been serving the autism community since 1965. It's our mission to create connections, empowering everyone in the autism community with the resources that they need to live fully. With 70 affiliates across the country, we serve more than 500,000 people each year through education, advocacy, information referral, support services, and community programming. As a national network with local roots, we have a unique understanding of the diversity within the autism community. So, some overview. In the United States, 1 in 36 children are diagnosed with autism, a third of whom will have an intellectual disability. Autism is the fastest growing developmental disability in the US, impacting all racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic groups. And nearly 3/4 of autistic children are diagnosed with a co occurring medical or mental health condition, with anxiety affecting up to 40% of people with autism. And this comes into play with our vaccination education initiative. But perhaps the most important part that we want to reinforce is that vaccines do not cause autism. In fact, the Autism Society believes that improving the vaccination experience is a critical step towards achieving more equitable healthcare for people with autism and all neurodiverse disabilities. With the support of the CDC and the Association of University Centers on Disabilities, the Autism Society launched the Vaccine Education Initiative, or the VEI, to address the systemic barriers to care and promote vaccine education, confidence, and access. The ADVC program is continuing and expanding our work throughout the country.
Thanks, Danielle. Excuse me. Before we dive into our vaccine education initiative and discuss a little bit about where we're going and where we hope you'll join us, we wanted to give an overview of autism and neurodiversity so that we can really look at the unique needs within the autism community and connect that to the needs, as Michelle said, of so many more in your community. So beginning with the term neurodiversity, this is a term that originally developed within the autistic community, but the neurodiversity paradigm is not about autism exclusively. It really addresses the full spectrum of variation in our brains as humans and recognizes that people interact with the world around them and experience the world around them in many different ways, and that there's no one right way of thinking, of learning, and of behaving. Just like computers and phones have different operating systems, so do brains. One isn't better than the other, they're different. And to accommodate for neurodiversity, we can change our approach and adapt to support those differences. Autism is an umbrella term for a range of neurodevelopmental differences that impact the way that the brain uses and processes information. Specifically, autism can impact information processing, communication, sensory processing, social behavior, and emotional regulation. But it impacts everyone differently, sometimes in very visible ways, and other times in really subtle or invisible ways. Autistic advocate Ashley McKay says the following about this color wheel visualization of autism as a spectrum of difference. The autism spectrum isn't a straight line of severity of symptoms. Instead, think of it as a highly detailed color wheel. Each small curved rectangular segment of each color slice of this wheel represents an autistic trait. The sample to the right can show how an individual's personal configuration of autistic traits might look. There's a whole spectrum of building blocks that make us who we are. No two autistic people have the same exact set of blocks, but we have our similarities because all of our blocks came from the same place. The uniqueness of each individual with autism has been summarized in the quote, "Once you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism." And you might have noticed already us using a range of terms when referring to autism throughout our slides. Many of us have been taught to use person-first language, putting one's personhood before their diagnosis. But a growing number of adults surveyed shared their preference for identity-first language. Identity first being autistic, citing that autism is central to their personhood. It's important to note that there's a range of personal preferences in this space. And so knowing the preferences of who you're serving is an important part of meeting everyone where they are.
We're going to move into information and communication, and the differences in the way that information is processed, accessed, and used is central to the autistic experience. Some individuals can struggle to process auditory information, but gain access when text is provided, and others may be visual processors, and regardless of their reading level, they require visual supports for effective understanding. And communication styles vary from person to person and impact access to expressive and receptive communication. Access to verbal communication varies from person to person and from setting to setting, and access to speech does not always lead to access to effective communication. There are many nuances in language and social communications which can lead to processing and understanding difficulties. There's still much to be learned about communication barriers in autism. Estimates show that 25 to 30% of autistic individuals will be non-speaking throughout their lifespan, impacting both of those with and without intellectual disability. Another 20% may lose access to verbal communication when they're highly stressed, such as vaccination experiences. Luckily, there's been so much progress in the field that we now have many alternative forms of communication which can drive access to critical conversation. But still, often, autistic individuals who are non-speaking or who have unreliable speech aren't always given opportunities to engage in health advocacy. When the information that is presented is inaccessible, and when there are no accommodations in place to allow for alternative methods of communication, the message that's received is often, "You won't understand this," or "You don't need to know this." And to realize health equity, we must accommodate a wide range of information processing. By designing supports for the autistic population, we can improve access for a much broader population, getting us closer to the time when all means all.
In addition to communication differences, sensory needs are a key piece of creating accessibility, especially in the healthcare setting. The complexities of the sensory system are fascinating, and they can be incredibly frustrating to experience as someone who's in an environment that was not built to meet their sensory needs. Sensory messages are filtered differently for a large majority of autistic individuals, which leads to a range of unmet needs and experiences. A person might be sensitive to one type of sensory stimuli, but under-responsive to another type. They may seek a lot of visual, but need low volume. This can create challenges in everyday situations that increase stress and anxiety, impacting one's sense of safety in their body and in the community. One way that sensory regulation is really managed is through stimming. And stimming is short for self-stimulatory behavior, which we're now really reframing as self-regulatory behavior. It's a form of sensory seeking that aims to keep one's sensory system in balance. So repetitive movements, sounds, and fidgeting can help people to stay calm, relieve stress, or block out uncomfortable sensory input. It can look like many things, like rocking or flapping, jumping or spinning. It can look like opening books and inhaling the smell of old ink and paper. It can sound like humming. Regardless of what it looks like or sounds like, autistic advocates are sharing more and more about what stimming feels like, reporting things like, I don't know why my body needs to do this, but if I don't, I'm headed for sensory overload. Allowing for safe stimming has become central to conversations about autistic wellness in recent years. Speaking of overload, too much stimuli, not enough stimuli, or the wrong kinds of sensory input can cause anxiety and even physical pain, leading to extreme distress. Sensory overload happens when stimuli overwhelms your ability to cope. And that can be triggered by a single event, like an unexpected loud noise, or it can build up over time due to the effort that it takes to cope with sensory sensitivities in daily life. Sensory overload can feel like intense anxiety, a need to escape a situation, and present as difficulty communicating. When the brain has to put all of its resources into sensory processing, it can shut off other functions like speech and decision-making or information processing. Sensory overload is a common phenomenon shared by children, teens, and adults on the spectrum. One who described their experience saying, "If I get sensory overload, then I just shut down. You get what's known as fragmentation. It's weird, like being tuned into 40 TV channels." Some might shut down. Others might experience that autonomic nervous system's fight, flight, fright response and respond differently. For many, healthcare settings create a perfect storm of anxiety. But the good news in all of these different needs, in all of what we've talked about today, is that we have strategies and the ability to reduce stress at every stage of vaccination, improving outcomes for parents, patients, providers, and everyone in our community.
At the Autism Society, we believe inclusion is the foundation for the core issues affecting the global autism community, and it's the foundation of our accessible vaccination model. The Autism Society is dedicated to health equity, and through the VEI, we strive to improve patient and population health by ensuring children, adults, and seniors with disabilities are included and supported. As you've heard throughout this presentation, no two experiences of autism will be the same, but one reality is shared by many. It's the lack of accessible healthcare solutions. The fact that we're here today together is a sign of great progress. The increase in collaboration for the sake of community is certainly a bright spot in the COVID-19 landscape. However, the pandemic continues to disproportionately impact autistic individuals. With 1 in 36 children receiving an autism diagnosis, co-occurring medical and mental health conditions, and premature mortality rates, it's critical that we prioritize health equity in the autism and disability community. In addition to known social determinants of health, the autism community faces unique barriers to accessible healthcare, stemming from sensory, social, cognitive, and communication differences. These barriers are too often viewed as patient barriers, when in fact they're environmental barriers, they're resource barriers, training barriers, system barriers, status quo barriers, all which contribute to pervasive trust barriers. To realize health equity, we must reframe these barriers and recognize our collective ability and our responsibility to identify solutions that instead are going to create access. So as we said earlier, the Autism Society became a proud partner of the Aging and Disability Vaccine Collaborative to increase vaccine uptake and access with a focus on the aging, BIPOC, Hispanic, LGBTQIA+, and rural populations with autism and other disabilities. Today, we're going to discuss how this model develops for the autism community can benefit all populations. The VI served as a pilot program, allowing us to learn from our community and identify best practices, which have led to improved vaccine experiences in communities across the country. And together, we have redesigned the vaccine experience, reducing anxiety at every stage. And one of the biggest surprises to us in this work was our own miscalculations surrounding the vaccine hesitancy in the autism community. After all, we've been responding to misinformation surrounding vaccinations long before the pandemic. We leaned in and heard again and again from parents who were vaccine hesitant, not because they didn't trust the safety or the efficacy of the vaccine, but because they were unwilling to subject their child or loved one to a 4-point restraint and the long-lasting trauma related to the vaccine experience. And this is why the VEI supports healthcare professionals, patients, family caregivers to eliminate these traumatic practices and rewrite the vaccine experience. We began by listening to those we serve and to better understand our community's need related to vaccine education, confidence, and access. This slide includes a sampling of some of the comments that families shared with us about their past vaccine experiences. These common themes include extreme anxiety, fear, crying, and complex medical histories. You can see the level of anxiety surrounding vaccines. Local families shared how even just one bad medical experience had the potential to contribute to ongoing trust issues with healthcare providers. And while many families commented about how challenging their past experiences are, they expressed hope that the vaccine process could be transformed to a more positive experience, what is exactly the work that we are doing.
As I said, we have some solutions to share with you today. There are strategies that we have learned through this work. In our partnership with local frontline vaccinators, in our training of healthcare providers, in our application to tools and strategies that are being used in homes and in schools to meet the needs of a wide variety of individuals. We've gathered all of the high impact strategies and put together our guide to accessible vaccine clinics. Our guide offers practical tips that can help transform the vaccine experience for everyone involved to address vaccine accessibility before, during, and after vaccination. And our guide is in both English and Spanish. Today, we're going to break down each section of the guide and discuss supports at each step of the process, beginning with pre-registration and planning ahead. There are a number of accessibility barriers that occur before anyone steps into a vaccine clinic. The standard vaccine announcement and sign up can really be modified to increase accessibility, to reduce stress, and to improve outcomes. We've started by using multiple methods to announce and promote vaccine clinics. Some of our affiliates have used social media or posted invitation videos on their websites, sharing information about what to expect at the clinic and how to sign up visually. This type of support, while required for some, is beneficial to so many more. The registration process is an excellent way to gather information that's needed to support a successful experience. Beyond the standard registration questions, we ask about past vaccine experiences, gathering information about supports that a person that receives the vaccine finds helpful in their daily life or what has helped them in the past in a healthcare setting. And we offer visual samples of strategies so that folks know what we make available to them. We ask about social communication preferences, recognizing that some benefit from social conversation as a distractor, and that for others, including many on the autism spectrum, any social demand can be anxiety producing. So instead of the standard, "You're in 8th grade, how is that going?" we can equip providers with a patient's favorite subject or passion so that they can reduce what's awkward for some and anxiety producing for others. While the typical vaccine appointment only lasts 15 minutes or less, what so many providers may not realize is that families often spend days or even weeks preparing for those 15 minutes. Much of our work to increase accessibility was to develop supports that help prepare in advance of the appointment. We provide a lot of information to caregivers and participants up front. We encourage them to bring items or objects that help them or their loved ones feel safe. And in addition, we offer a range of sensory tools. But for some, those safety items can be very specific and personalized, things that they bring from home that carry a deeper sense of safety. If your clinic is unable to supply things like fidgets, noise canceling headphones, or communication supports, remind family members to bring those supports that help their child in other settings. The information provided by families in our pre-registration process helps us to ensure that we're best prepared on the day of the clinic. We also provide supports that ensure vaccine recipients are best prepared, using evidence-based practices for supporting those with autism, which I'm going to go through in our next couple of slides. We've created social stories and visual schedules. In addition, plain language resources, step-by-step guides. Given before the appointment, social stories and visual schedules create access to important information about the vaccine clinic and reduce anxiety by foreshadowing the process of the vaccine. By creating predictability and structure in an otherwise stressful and chaotic experience, we can reduce anxiety for patients, families and caregivers, and healthcare professionals who are serving them. Again, while social stories are an evidence-based practice for supporting someone with autism, they can serve a much wider range of vaccine recipients. This is an example of a strategy that can be generalized to other healthcare appointments. Much of the anxiety surrounding healthcare stems from not knowing what to expect. So when providers help their patients prepare for appointments, we're creating a new experience in healthcare and reducing anxiety for the following appointments. Another strategy that we use within the autism community is a range of communication supports. And while we've discussed, Danielle shared the range of communication differences in our community, so often those who communicate non-verbally or are non-speaking are left out of healthcare conversations. We see communication as central to closing the health equity gap. We've created communication boards that also have letter boards. We allow and support a range of technology-aided communication, and we really look for individuals and caregivers to share their feedback or recommendations. While we spoke about the percent of non-speaking individuals in the autism community, we recognize that that spans across a wide range of developmental disabilities as well. And we have to be thinking about, in addition to what we're able to provide, how we can encourage individuals to use the communication systems that they use in their daily lives in the doctor's office, at a vaccine clinic. One of the most important quotes that I think about is, "Don't leave my voice on a shelf." You might not have knowledge of how to navigate a complicated technology aided communication system, and you don't have to, but by showing that you're interested and by welcoming that time that it takes to communicate in a patient's communication style, you're really breaking down barriers that will last a lifetime.
Thank you. And now we're going to move into the environmental supports. So as Alia discussed, by creating predictability and structure to what's otherwise a stressful and chaotic experience, we can reduce anxiety for patients, family, caregivers, and healthcare professionals. And to plan for sensory and environmental support, we've identified sensory and physical barriers by mapping out the vaccine appointment from arrival to departure. Designing sensory-friendly environments can mean different things for different people, but these are some examples of the high-impact strategies we consider go-to supports with relatively simple solutions that can be applied to most settings. So reduce fluorescent lights when possible. You can use half power or equip a go-to room, or even use fire-safe light filters. Offer a variety of seating options. Noise canceling headphones, or allow for personalized headphones to watch music or YouTube videos that offer preferred auditory input. Sensory fidgets, so that everyone can have a sensory tool. While this is best practice for some, it can incentivize for others. Reduce crowds. Make a route from the entry to the vaccination free of crowding, and this will reduce both sensory and social overwhelm. If filling out paperwork in a crowded waiting room is a barrier, consider sending the paperwork in advance to skip the line. Providing visual supports. Signs that say where to go and what to do can help ensure a smooth process and transition from one step to the next. And offer some calming music or videos as well.
At every clinic, we provide training to our healthcare providers, equipping them with knowledge and tools that help them meet diverse needs. This training is a key aspect of our collaborative model, which in our pilot celebrated a 99% successful vaccination rate. At our clinics, we're using two types of injection tools, both buzzy bees and shot blockers. A buzzy bee is a small device that uses a combination of cooling and vibration to block sharp pain and provides distraction when giving injections or other medical procedures. And a shot blocker is a flexible piece of plastic that uses a number of blunt contact points that saturate the sensory signals around an injection site, distracting the patient from the pain signals of the needle poke. It's a simple, non-invasive, drug-free method that reduces needle pain and anxiety. These pain-deferring tools are one of the many high-impact strategies that are making a big difference for providers and vaccine recipients. We took note of the high-impact tools and resources that made a difference for our participants and designed accessible vaccine kits for families and healthcare providers. Along with our guide and communication boards, social narratives, and visual schedules, these kits include sensory tools like sunglasses, fidgets, and noise-canceling headphones, as well as those pain-deferring injection tools like the shot blocker and the buzzy bees. These tools in this model are helping us to rewrite the vaccine experience and reduce traumatic vaccination. But there are a number of other high-impact strategies that we continue to learn as we host more and more clinics. We're recognizing the importance of lengthening the appointment time, even if it's an additional 5 minutes. When we think about the days and weeks that families are spending preparing for a 15-minute appointment, it seems appropriate to lengthen that appointment to meet those needs. The importance of relational support cannot be unstated. I had the pleasure of going to one of our clinics that had multiple series and meeting a young man who loved WWE so much that knowledge of WWE wrestlers carried him through from one vaccine to the next booster. And seeing the joy on his face when he walked into the clinic and saw a nurse who started talking about his favorite wrestler, that cannot be measured. Caregiver-informed strategies are key. Our families have unique knowledge about the specific things to do or to not do, and support people, friends, are also huge supports in creating accessible spaces. The ability to facilitate choice and grow autonomy is key when we recognize the amount of things that are outside of the control of someone who experiences communication barriers and sensory barriers day in and day out. When we can provide options for small things like fidget choices, Band-Aid choices, snack choices, time choices, we are providing power that leads to improved trust. And predictability, patience, and a little bit of play go a long way. At the first clinic that I attended, one of the nurses I spoke with said, "I've worked in peds for 25 years and I have never seen anything like this." And those nurses who had no experience or prior training to support autistic patients have shared with us, there's no reason why we couldn't do this in every clinic. We can. Earlier, Danielle shared some of the past experiences gathered from our families. And this model has shown us the impact of the strategies that we shared today. These testimonies are coming from the same families who shared those past experiences of tears, restraint, and trauma, stating the staff was wonderful, our boys were completely comfortable and calm through what's typically a stressful situation. There was no anxiety about getting the second shot because of how smooth the first went. We're so grateful to have this experience to learn about what made a difference for our families. Getting this done in a low-stress, guilt-free environment alleviated my own stress as a parent about being judged for my child's behavior. I appreciated the patience my children were shown, and getting to play afterwards helped to create a more positive memory of the event, which will hopefully help the next time a vaccine is needed. These tools used to distract my son and make him as comfortable and relaxed as possible, and that nobody held him down. While we've designed this for the autism community, the broader disability community, we welcome and open our clinics to everyone in the community, recognizing that our families struggle with vaccine accessibility as well. And our clinics are a one-stop shop for any family member to receive vaccination, reducing the barriers that allow the whole family to get vaccinated together. One of the parts of our model that we're really passionate about is the impact of universal design, recognizing that what one person might need, all people can benefit from. Many people experience needle phobia and anxiety around vaccinations, and this model has the power to benefit everyone.
We've seen how powerful, how important, and how successful these clinics can be. And we understand you may not be able to implement all of these tips, but some of these ideas are simple and easy to incorporate. We want to share these special moments with you, so please enjoy our PSA that was created to highlight the impacts we can have when communities work together.
Bear with me one moment here.
The ongoing impact of COVID-19. The ongoing impact of COVID-19 is felt by us all. People with autism are more likely to experience severe symptoms and complex barriers to healthcare. Individuals with intellectual disabilities are also 6 times more likely to die from this disease. We see you. We understand the unique challenges the autism community faces. The Autism Society is committed to vaccine education, confidence, and access through our Vaccine Education Initiative. Together, we are reimagining the vaccine experience. We prepare, educate, move, respond, and support.
I got my vaccine today, and I didn't
Visual schedules and social stories prepare vaccine recipients.
Today at the vaccine clinic, it was my first experience using social stories, communication boards, and visual supports to help ease the children's anxiety and help prepare them to receive the vaccines that they needed.
Healthcare providers receive training to facilitate a supported experience. Because of this, our vaccine clinics have a 99% success rate.
This was a successful vaccine experience because of the healthcare providers here, the play therapists, the accessory support used for the injection sites, being in their own environment. It made it very welcoming and comforting.
Another great thing we've been able to do with the clinics is offer parents the option to do a drive-in, so they don't even have to come out of their car. We can just pull in, they call us. Our public health workers have been amazing and just gone out. We've talked to the parents, done everything, gotten the shot, and they're done in minutes.
Because of the strength of our affiliate network, we have hosted over 50 educational events and 30 vaccine clinics across the country. Because of you, we continue to advocate for a more inclusive, supported healthcare system.
I could not ask for a better experience. It's for all. It's for all people. All kids can benefit from this.
The toys, to the stickers, to the snack bags, to even the shot blocker made a huge difference in making the experience of getting a vaccine so much more calm and a positive experience.
It made me feel a lot more like I was at a friend's house rather than getting a shot. I wish I could get all my vaccines moving forward like I did today.
The Autism Society of America is charting a path to improve health equity to ensure that the autism community and their families have both the access and the opportunity to obtain full health potential.
Together, we can be the connection. The Autism Society. The connection is you. Get connected at autismsociety.org.
Thank you. So that was our PSA that was done through our pilot program out in Texas, and that was just when the pediatric approval for the vaccine was released. So we are continuing to grow our program, expand it outside of just COVID, increasing flu vaccinations, pneumonia, et cetera, and of course the aging and all populations. So now we want to talk about our meaningful, sustainable, and replicable impact. The VEI has allowed us to increase the vaccine confidence and accessibility during a time when our country really needed it the most. And we've unpacked vaccine hesitancy and worked to repair trust barriers in local communities. We identified key gaps in healthcare education, preparation, and training and provider confidence. And we found passionate people in every community and strengthened collaboration, partnership, and connection across the country. And we're here because we believe that everyone deserves accessible vaccination, and we believe it's possible for everyone. And having the opportunity to speak on platforms like these allows our voice and our program and our mission to be heard. And we're hoping that all of you will think about replicating, if not the entire program, just small pieces into your everyday practice. Our work is really far from over. We're going to continue moving nationwide outside of our pilot areas, and again, moving from COVID to all vaccines, all routine vaccinations. This fall, we're going to be moving to back to school fairs to increase our under-vaccinated children going back to school. We'll be on college campuses across the country. We'll be in senior homes, pharmacies, and we would love to partner with anyone here on the call today, because we couldn't have done this program successfully without our powerful community partners. And I was so fortunate to meet Michelle at a conference a few months ago, and we had so much to talk about, from immunization all the way to autism. And we just couldn't stop about thinking about ways that our work just interlapped and how we can all work together. So if you're interested in hosting an accessible vaccine clinic or incorporating this into your practice, please reach out and contact us. We will drop our email, vei@autism-society.org, and this will be put in the chat box. And any way that we can help work throughout the state of Connecticut to increase your vaccination rates this fall, we are very thankful for this opportunity, and we look forward to working with the Immunization Coalition.
Thank you very much.
Amazing. Just give me 1 second to get us back on track here. All right. Thank you so much. That was fantastic information. I can't even describe. I had goosebumps at points because I can relate to so much of the information that was presented personally. If anybody has questions for our amazing presenters, please do put them in the Q&A box and we'll address them. So far, I haven't seen any questions. You guys really covered a lot of content in a short time. And personally, when I was discussing some of the strategies we use to vaccinate our son, we certainly did, a shot blocker was really integral to our experience, providing fidgets, a quiet, less sensory overload area. We integrated a lot of the strategies without having this formal education. And so it was really nice to get some validation about that. I am not seeing any questions in the Q&A box, and I'm guessing that's because you covered the information so thoroughly, but I will move along, and if any questions do come through, we'll address them before we close.
I put the links to some of our resources in the chat box for everyone to see, so feel free to review those as well as our contact information for more information.
Great, thank you. And we just got a question that is, do you have the kits available for purchase?
Thanks for your interest. We are gathering interest from individuals to see if we can meet the capacity of all of the interest for the kits. So our answer is yes, we'd like to make these available to everyone on the call today, and we'd like to be able to do that quickly. I will share a little bit about our kits because I'm very proud of them as well. They are being assembled by a transition program of autistic individuals and those with intellectual disabilities as a part of a job experience. We got to hire a group that actually was connected to me in my former life as an educator, and they are assembling hundreds and thousands of kits. Danielle just got hers right now. And really, we're waiting on the ability to ship as many noise canceling headphones as we can. It turns out it's a lot different when you order 10,000 than when you order 500. So yes, please share your, or reach out to us at the VEI at autismsociety.org. Danielle's going through some of the pieces of the kits. And we are also really wanting to give that confidence that these strategies are not hugely expensive. They're not hugely complicated. It's not expected that everyone on the call should go learn how to write a social story. You have us for that. And at the same time, the strategies that we are presenting at our clinics are known to our families. Social stories, visual schedules, picture boards. These are pieces of culture in the autism and disability community that say, you're welcomed here. We're going to meet you where you are. And we can't wait to share some of those with you. So please check out the links in the chat box as well.
Thanks so much. Just before we end the program, I just wanted to go over a few coalition and lung association updates and resources. The Connecticut Immunization Coalition is dedicated to the promotion of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP, recommended adult vaccinations for the protection from illness, from vaccine preventable illnesses, and now has a website available on the Connecticut Department of Public Health immunization program website. There you can learn more about the coalition, become a member, access educational opportunities and resources. And we've recently added some vaccination education videos for a few vaccine preventable illnesses. The QR code on the screen takes you to that website if you're interested and haven't been yet. Together, the Connecticut Immunization Coalition, Department of Public Health, and the American Lung Association plan the annual Influenza Update Conference. This is scheduled for September 14th at the Woodwinds in Branford, Connecticut. You can view the topics for the conference and register to attend using the QR code on the screen. Also, Tiffany's posting in the chat, and we'll be sending out all of these resources post webinar as well. The American Lung Association is dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion to advance our mission to save lives by improving lung health and preventing lung disease, and has a variety of infectious respiratory disease and immunization resources geared toward healthcare professionals, patients, and the community. Resources include educational videos, fact sheets, animations, social media toolkits, tons of resources on our website. You can find those resources by going to each of our hubs, which are lung.org/viruses or lung.org/vaccines. Those are the hubs to get to each infectious respiratory disease or the vaccine and the resources associated with it. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I'm going to pop myself back in the Q&A box real quick just to see if there were any additional questions, and I'm not seeing any. So thanks for joining today's webinar. Please do make sure to complete the brief electronic evaluation. It's located on the QR code on the screen. We'll also send that follow-up email, which includes the evaluation. We did include a form where if you're interested in having a clinic with the Autism Society of America, we're collecting names and emails so we can connect you directly to Danielle and Allie, our fantastic presenters. We hope that you learned enjoyed learning more about how to improve vaccination for neurodiverse people. There is opportunity on the webinar eval to share your interests in this topic, among other feedback questions as well. And if you have questions for the Connecticut Immunization Coalition, please do feel free to reach out. Our email is on this slide, which is ctcoalition@lung.org. And again, I thank everybody for participating today in this important topic. I thank our presenters for taking time out of their days to present to us. And again, we will have this this webinar recorded and accessible after today's live webinar. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.